Alrighty, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Ball Knower Podcast Team Preview Series. I'm your host, as always, David Miller, joined today by three guests. To my right, we've got Zach. Below me, we've got Billy. And then to the bottom right, we've got Sweep. And as I'm sure you can tell by two of the profile pictures here, we're going to be talking about the Washington football team. So this team is an interesting one to talk about. I'm going to say, a bit of a mess. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it is, given the current state of what's going on up top. So if you guys want to start there, well, first of all, how are you guys doing today? I got to start out with that. How are you guys doing?
I'm good.
All right, good.
I would have my camera on, but my girlfriend, I finally cut my hair last night. So
hey, you're good. You're good. It's not a big deal. Listen, like I was talking about before we started recording, I was talking to Billy. Brett Coleman came on here, didn't turn on his camera. So if he's not going to turn on his camera, I can't get mad at anybody else for not doing it.
Yeah.
But anyways, we tried to record this already, and Zoom kicked us off, so we had to move to Discord and start over. And we were kind of talking about Carson Wentz to start off, so I think that's probably where we should start here again. So how do you guys feel about the Carson Wentz trade? Because when we were talking about it, you guys really didn't get to give your input too much, so I don't really know yet.
I don't think it's terrible because in the grand scheme of things, it'll suck if he's really not very good to lose a couple of day 2 draft picks. But at the end of the day, it's not a supreme amount that you gave up, and he should be better than what you've. Although he definitely comes with baggage, I'd say his mechanics are pretty wonky. He makes mistakes, but like I said, I still think it's someone who is better than what you've had, and I think that's all. If you can't get a big name quarterback, it's kind of all you can ask for sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm not incredibly upset about it. I was pretty upset when it happened because I was like, "This is the guy you're doing this for." This could be Rivera's last shot. On a lot of other factors, and I was like, "This is the guy you think can help save your job." Okay, see.
Yeah, I think they did what they could. I don't think they really had much of any other option because it's not like, if I'm not mistaken, I was going to say, I don't think they were in on Watson, which they dodged a bullet there. Imagine a team with, Watson and Dan Snyder in the same building might be the most toxic environment for any woman possible. The only thing that would make it worse is if you had a Bill Cosby speaker day. That would be the only way you could possibly make that worse. But he's not a terrible quarterback. Wentz does get a little bit too much hate. He's okay. We've definitely seen him play a high-level football looking back to what he did in Philadelphia the year he almost won MVP. But you look at him recently, and he's made a lot of mistakes. He just makes a lot of boneheaded mistakes. Like, he throws a lot of passes with his left hand, and it forces a lot of things that he doesn't need to force. I preach the quarterback should be aggressive, but he's a little bit too aggressive. If you get what I'm saying there, he's definitely something, that's for sure. But he is an upgrade over Heineke. He's a better quarterback, and it was what you guys needed to do. Sweep, Zach, either of you want to add to that?
I'm pretty optimistic on Wentz, and I probably more than all of you. And I think specifically what the boneheaded turnovers that we see year in, year out. I think if any coaching staff, like Frank Reich, was not going to yell at Carson, right? If anyone is going to do it, I think Ron Rivera is going to kind of kick him in the ass a little bit if he starts doing stuff like that, because he has the talent around him. He has no excuse to he should not be playing hero ball, which is what he started doing in Indy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but he can easily return to what he did. I'm optimistic in his talent, very much so.
All right, Sweep, you want to add anything to that?
I think the only thing that fans were upset about with Carson Wentz is that we were so close to getting Russell Wilson. But when you go from getting Russell Wilson to Carson Wentz, you're kind of looking at what is this? We could have had, an arguably top 5 quarterback. Now we went to a top 21 that's had, some leadership issues. But looking at him between Heineke, I still think it's a decent upgrade, a decent amount. I think the only thing that Heineke struggled with was passing deep. He was like one of the least accurate deep passers in the league.
Mm-hmm.
He also just didn't have an arm. You'd see it like in the Cowboys game or the Saints game. He just constantly overthrows stuff that are 20 yards that shouldn't be underthrown.
Mm-hmm.
He also definitely did play some hero ball too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like Heineke. I think Heineke's a solid backup. I think that's kind of what he is at this point. He's kind of like the perfect clipboard Jesus type guy, so to speak. He can read a defense well. He's smart. He knows what he's doing. He can get outside of the pocket and make some plays with his legs. We saw that back in, what was it, 2 years ago now in the playoffs against the Buccaneers, where he was diving at the pylon every play. He can do a lot, but like you said, he just can't hit that deep ball. He doesn't have the arm strength to do it. And at this point in the NFL, you got to have some sort of strength. You got to be able to get the ball downfield. This isn't 1982. You can't get away with dinking and dunking it and, relying on your running back or anything like that. So Heineke isn't a great starter for right now, but I do think Wentz is an upgrade. And I kind of like what you brought up, Zach, with Ron Rivera. I hadn't considered that. That is not something I had thought about, but you're absolutely right. Riverboat Ron is definitely somebody who could kick Wentz into shape if possible, but I don't know. I think Wentz might just be a little bit too Wentsy for his own good. I think he's probably going to get in his own way a lot more than maybe what Zach thinks.
That definitely will happen. I'm not saying it never will.
Okay, fair. Yeah, it's just Wentz. At the end of the day, we all know what Wentz is. We've seen it. He looked good for the majority of last season, and I'm not going to blame him for that collapse against the Colts in the last week of the season, but it is what it is. It's an upgrade, but long-term, he's not going to be your answer. But I am very optimistic that you guys found your answer in the 5th round, and call me crazy, but I am a huge fan of Sam Howell. And granted, I am a UNC fan, so maybe take that with a grain of salt. But I think Sam Howell can be the guy for you guys. Very smart quarterback. He can get outside of the pocket. Ooh, excuse me. He's smart. He can get outside of the pocket. He has a strong arm. It's just everything around him at UNC kind of went to shit last year, and because of that, his draft stock kind of tanked. Because, this is a guy we were talking about being the first overall pick a couple months before the season. So I think Howell can be that guy. And him falling to the 5th round, I think that's a steal. I think that was one of the best value picks that any team made. So I'm very excited to see what he's going to be able to do in Washington, and hopefully that team will become a little more, or I'll say a little less dysfunctional when he's at the helm.
I think when you look at how your worst case scenario is just kind of like a good backup kind of thing, right? Because he can make a big play when he's needed to, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to some extent, I kind of think it was not to say he's bad at all. It was kind of a dart throw, but at the same time, I'd say it's a dart throw with a pretty decent chance to turn into something. And you didn't. It's not like you threw an important dart. You threw 5th round.
Right.
Go see what you got.
I mean, that's what everybody's doing in the 5th, 6th, 7th round. You're just trying to get value wherever you can, and I think taking Sam Howell with Wentz to potentially be your bridge quarterback for him. Because what did you guys end up giving up for Wentz? I can't remember what the trade was.
We swapped seconds and gave 2/3.
Yeah, and the third could become a 2nd round pick if he plays the snap minimum again.
Okay. You guys gave up a good bit. Damn. I didn't think it was that much.
We traded back in the 1st, and we got back our 3rd round pick, and then next year we're getting back a 3rd round pick for compensation for Sheriff.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, that's not too bad then. I guess you were kind of playing with house money at that point, moving those picks. Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, let's just jump to the draft. We can come back to the roster in a moment. How did you guys feel about the draft as a whole?
I thought it was fine. I think they kind of penciled in some needs that they had. They wanted another outside receiver, and I think Jahan Dotson kind of fit the mold they were looking for, someone with a high catch radius, because it was pretty apparent that they wanted Drake London. And I kind of did too. But, when he went off the board at pick 8 to Atlanta, it was kind of just like, oh, okay, well, you may as well move back here and grab some other high-value guys later in the draft and get a guy who, he may not be our Drake London, but Jahan Dotson fits the role that they might have wanted him to fill. And then I think that a lot of people overreacted with some of their other picks. I think that they were just hammering out high floor depth needs with Mathis and Robinson. And then they picked a couple other skill positions in day 3. So I thought it was a pretty good one as a whole. I think that you might see more guys have impact this year, but maybe not have the highest of ceilings. But we'll got to wait and see on that.
Yeah, I can get behind that. Sweep, Zach, either of you want to add anything to that before I go off?
Yeah, oh, sorry, you go.
All right. I was a fan of every pick besides the Mathis pick. When they drafted Mathis, I was like, okay, the only way this pick makes sense is if we trade Payne and get like a 3rd-round pick. Because I feel like getting like a backup defensive tackle right now in the 2nd round isn't that good of value. I would have much rather them taken Brisker in the 2nd, and then in the 3rd pick up Winfrey. I think that would have been a better combo of the two. But yeah, that's the only thing I didn't like about the draft.
Yeah, I wanted Brisker there too. What I was gonna say was I go to Penn State, so I've been watching Dotson for the last 3 years, and I know he's gonna be a top 20 receiver in the next 2. He's gonna have probably similar to an Amon-Ra St. Brown trajectory.
That's valid,
in my opinion. He catches everything. He's electric. He has to be good. And I also think Cole Turner in the 5th round he's gonna make more of an impact right away than Howell. Because, we don't know. Logan Thomas is still a question mark. So, Cole Turner, I guess, has looked really good in camp or whatever they've been doing. So, he's a name to watch out for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Personally, I've been very vocal in not being a big Jahan Dotson guy. I just don't like the way he projected. My opinion on him was kind of he can be a good 2nd, probably 3rd option for a team, and I wasn't a big fan of him going in the 1st round. But the more I think about it, I think Washington was the only team that I would have been okay with taking Dotson in the 1st round, just because he's such a nice compliment to Terry McLaurin. Dotson's not a guy that's going to... What was that?
Oh, I said definitely, yeah.
Yeah. He's... looking at Dotson, he's not the fastest dude. He's not going to win you 50-50 balls. He's not somebody who you're going to send on, a fly route, expect to burn the DB, take the top off the defense. But he's great in the intermediate. He's super tough. Kind of like Zach said, he catches everything. And that's the perfect compliment to Terry because Terry does everything else for you. He's your 50-50 ball guy. He can take the top off the defense. He can do whatever you need him to do. So I think I still don't love Dotson. I'm still not the biggest fan of him, but I think he ended up in the perfect spot for him. And I think Washington, like I said, would be the only team I was okay with taking him in the 1st round. And then you go to the 2nd round and look at Fedarian Mathis. And I agree. I think you would have been better off probably waiting on a D tackle. But I understand now why they sprung on it. Initially, I thought they were out of their mind because, Washington's always had 4 or 5 defensive tackles that have always been starting caliber that they rotate in and out.
Yeah.
But they traded Matt Ioannidis, they lost Tim Settle, and all of a sudden there's no depth. You have
Settle's
Payne.
Huge loss.
Mm-hmm. You have Payne and you have Allen, and then there's no depth. So I understand why they took Mathis, but I'm not a huge fan of Mathis. I think he projects as at best a 3rd rotational guy, which, he's fitting his role, I suppose, with what he's going to be doing there. But I have to agree. I think taking Brisker in the 2nd and then waiting and taking a guy like Perry and Winfrey, who I think has a higher ceiling, probably would have been smarter. But obviously, as a Bears fan, I'm very happy y'all didn't do that. Brisker's my guy. I absolutely love him. Even though he's holding out right now, he's being goofy about his contract. Absolutely love Brisker. And then the rest of the draft, I already praised Sam Howell, love him. Brian Robinson, I think, was a great pick. I think he can honestly be your RB1 long term. I'm not a big Antonio Gibson guy, which we can get into here in a couple minutes. And then I'll be honest with you, Cole Turner, Chris Paul, Christian Holmes, Percy Butler, not guys I'm super familiar with. I didn't watch any tape on them going into it. Maybe I probably should have. So if any of you guys have any thoughts on any of the guys I just named that I'm not too familiar with, go ahead, by all means, talk about them because I have nothing to say.
From what I heard actually from your boy Brett Coleman at the draft, Percy Butler is likely to be in an immediate day 1 special teams player.
Okay.
At the bare minimum, and he also played really good safety at Louisiana. I think Lafayette. Yeah, I think Louisiana, and he was so that would be very good for them day one because the special teams has been like good, but it kind of always feels like they give up like one special teams play that just like kind of sets them back. So if they can help hammer that out, put him next to Apke in the special teams, that'd be really cool.
Okay, interesting. So you've got White Lightning, a partner in crime, pretty much there.
Yeah,
not bad. Yeah. If he's a super athletic guy, I would assume, talking about him being a special teamer, he must be tough and he must be quick. That's the type of guy you can mold into a solid safety if you can get shit rolling with him, get him to figure out a couple things. And then, was it Zach that was praising Cole Turner, talking about Cole Turner? Because I forgot we kind of covered him already.
Well, he was like Nevada's #1 red zone target throughout. Like they would just throw him up fades in the end zone like countless times, and like I feel personally, not many people. I mean, I doubt any of you are Carson Strong believers, but I mean, Cole Turner definitely helped him out more than he hurt him.
Not as like a starter, but I liked him.
I like Carson Strong as well. There might be something there. I don't know. It's going to be
the mobility just kills.
Yeah, true.
You see it in the knees.
Unfortunately. And then Chris Paul, Christian Holmes. Christian Holmes might end up being super important for you guys, which, again, we'll get to in a little bit because your cornerback depth is pretty suspect. And Chris Paul, I don't know a damn thing about, but it never hurts to take a lineman late. You never know. They can blossom into something. So I guess moving on from there, we can let's talk about what happened in terms of additions and subtractions during free agency. We already talked about Carson Wentz. Already talked about bringing him in. Then you brought in 2 guards. You brought in Andrew Norwell and Trey Turner to replace Brandon Sheriff. Do you guys have confidence in either of them? Do you think either of them? Well, I think as of right now, they're both projected to start, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Potentially, Wes Schweitzer could start over one of them, but I think he's more rotational. I think that's the role they like him in.
Okay. So do you guys have confidence in them? Because I do. I think Norwell and Turner are both pretty solid.
I think Norwell is a good upgrade.
Kept Flowers, to be honest.
What were you saying, Sweet?
I think Norwell's a good upgrade over Eric Flowers, who we also lost. I'd rather have Norwell there. With Sheriff's he's really good, but last season he was just very iffy. He missed 7 games, and in those games he missed, Schweitzer came in, and I didn't really notice a difference between the two.
No,
one was in and one was out. I'd rather have Schweitzer as a backup just because he's more versatile, and if our center goes down or a tackle goes down, he could fill it in pretty well.
Sort of like the 6th man of your offensive line.
Yeah.
Respect it.
Well, I want to know too. Chase Roulier is so important to this offense.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's great
up the middle. I mean, if he's playing well and if Schweitzer's on his game, like those two are an insane run blocking duo.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I think. I mean, obviously, Brandon Sheriff, losing him sucks when you think about it from a name value perspective. But you guys are right. He was kind of having a down year last year, and the amount of money he just got paid, I would assume Washington just wasn't comfortable paying him after that type of season. So I understand why that move happened. And Norwell isn't that much of a drop-off. Norwell's pretty solid. And Trey Turner, I think, if you're going for the whole Schweitzer as your 6th man of your offensive line, so to speak, I think that's a solid pickup. Like, that offensive line is, I'm not going to say quietly, because I think everybody kind of knows it's a great offensive line, but it's very good. It's one that you don't hear tossed into like the top 5, top 10 conversation too often, but it should be. Because, you're like 8 deep here, which is not something you see very often from an offensive line. Charles Leno Jr., which I hate that he's so good for you guys, because we cut him for no reason. He was a cap casualty, and he ended up balling out for you guys. And then you got Chase Roulier here you're talking about, absolute stud. Mm-hmm. Sam Cosme's really come into his own.
Yeah.
It's a good offensive line. It's a really good offensive line. I don't know. Would you guys say they're better against the run or better for the runner pass? I would lean towards saying they're better pass blockers personally.
Yeah, I'd say the tackles are better in the pass game, probably, as one would think. I know the interior just mauls in the run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like Cosme as a pass blocker, although he's very fast. He can get out there in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
I think. But like you said, I mean, it's really deep. It kind of depends on who's on the field. I mean, Corn Lucas is pretty decent too. So, I mean, it all kind of depends.
Another guy that spent time in Chicago, I believe.
Yeah. Pretty sure, yeah.
And look at Chicago's offensive line currently. That's a whole other thing. We're not going to get into that. I'll go on a whole rant.
Love Tevin.
I love Tevin too, but we don't know where the hell Tevin's playing. Tevin could play left tackle. He could play right tackle. He could play guard. They don't know what the hell they're doing with him.
Was it a shoulder injury with him last year?
Back.
I can't remember.
It was his back. He had to get back surgery.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's tough.
Well, no, they said he recovered from it fine. It's just the issue of he was a right tackle in college. They tried to play him at left tackle last year, and he wasn't very good at it. But he's built like a guard and has like he would be a good tackle. But if you have tackles that are solid next to him, I think he can be like an all-pro guard. So I would personally rather him play at guard because he's got the strength, he's got the ferocity, he's got the quickness. He lost a bunch of weight this offseason to really slim down and get quicker.
Yeah.
So I would rather them play him at guard. But if they have no other option at tackle, you can't just be like, well, we'll send 2 garbage tackles out there and have a really good guard. That's just not how football works. They're going to prioritize him playing tackle. They're going to play him wherever they need him. So I don't know what the hell they're doing with him. But I do like Tevin. I think Tevin has great upside. It just kind of depends on whether or not they can fit him in a role and let him stay there, because that's going to fuck up his development big time if they can't. But back to Washington. The other kind of big name that you guys lost was Landon Collins, but I don't think that's a super big loss for you guys. Maybe you can disagree with me, or maybe you can tell me why you disagree. But he wasn't really doing much for y'all last year, if I'm not mistaken, and he's a guy that's probably going to be a little bit too expensive to keep around for the level of play he was exhibiting last year.
He was kind of misusing, I think, and then like he kind of switched his spot, played a lot more in the box and even some in nickel, and he kind of performed better. And then I'm pretty sure he got hurt again, which was it was just a crusher. And then like you said, it was just they signed him that 6-year, $84 million contract. It takes a toll, especially when you get a quarterback making a lot of money.
Yeah.
No. And there was hope that they would end up bringing him back on a cheaper deal, but I feel like you just don't really see that happen. So I never really thought that would happen.
It's very rare you see a guy get cut and then they're like, hey, you want to come back for less money? Like, that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You never know, though.
Yeah, maybe if we have some injuries, he could come back.
Right.
I wouldn't expect it, but I've seen crazier things.
Yeah.
I hear they're interested in Anthony Barr because they need somebody who can play that like in the box too.
Yeah, they need linebacker help, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Very badly.
As long as they don't have to see David Mayo.
Yeah.
David Mayo, I didn't think he was that bad last year. As a rotational guy, I thought he played solid.
He played better than I had expected. I'll say that. Because he was it felt like he was brought in to mainly just be a special teams player, and then you're just like, oh, shoot, he had to play linebacker. So I think he played a little better than expectations. I mean, the only linebacker I was really like confident with last year on the field was actually your boy Cole Holcomb.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
I love Holcomb.
I like Cole Holcomb. I'm not sure if he should be a full-time Mike, but I do think he's the best linebacker they have, and I think he's the guy I'm most comfortable playing there right now.
Yeah.
Jamin Davis just didn't really seem fit for the role last year.
Yeah, Holcomb and Davis are an interesting duo because, first of all, they complement each other perfectly. They make up for each other's weaknesses absolutely perfectly. But the type of defense you guys are running that contains a lot of quarters and you're expecting your linebackers to kind of match up with running backs and tight ends and whatnot, Holcomb kind of sucks at. He's just not physically gifted enough to be able to do it. He's a super smart dude. He knows what he's doing, but there's just a lot of physical limitation with him. So it's iffy. And then you have Jamin Davis, who's literally the exact opposite. He looked lost half the time out there last year, but he is a physical specimen, a borderline freak of nature, great upside. If he can grow, he can be fantastic. Like, if you could take Cole Holcomb and put him in Jamin Davis's body, you would have a top 5 linebacker in football. Like, they are two halves of an elite whole. It's just they need to figure out how the two of them kind of mesh together and let Davis kind of come into his own, which I think if they can do that, that can be an elite linebacker duo. It can be a very underrated duo.
Yeah, with Davis, it's all about instincts. Because like you said, he's got all the tools. He's so fast. He's big. He's just, everything you'd want in your linebacker. It's just that he's not, it's a tough learning curve, And Holcomb, I mean, I remember when he was on the Giants. I mean, he could not keep up with Evan. Well, luckily, he would drop some passes for us. But, he definitely has a little trouble holding up with speed, but he's a pretty smart linebacker. Mm-hmm. He knows how to play the position to the best of his ability.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean,
comfortable with him being a starter for sure.
Yeah,
he's a good player.
I mean, Davis started to kind of look up at the end of last year. He started to really put it together. It's just, like you said, the instincts just aren't there. He's not good against the run at all. Like, he basically needs to relearn how to play run defense, it almost looks like. But, I mean, he's a guy that you're willing to take a project on. I thought he was drafted too high. I thought he shouldn't have been a first-round pick. I think that was a little bit of a high ask for him. I'm not saying... Actually, I am saying you guys reached, but like, I think that was a bit of a high ask for him to really be a first round pick with how raw he was. Like, I get it. I get why they did it, but I feel like you would have felt more comfortable spending a day 2 pick on him.
I wanted Bateman.
Fair. This really receiver core with Bateman?
But I just did not feel like they were going to draft one. And did they draft a receiver all draft? Oh, right. They drafted Brown. They drafted Brown and Milne in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm. I love Diami Brown. He's a stud. Hold on, before we get into him, Sweep, Zach, either of you want to add anything to the linebackers?
I just want to say, how do you guys feel about Casey Toohill?
I think he's a good rotational piece.
Yeah.
See, I don't.
He definitely might have to play a lot more if Chase isn't back to the start of the year, which I don't think he will be. If I'm being honest.
No, I don't think it looks good, but
because he took the long recovery surgery.
James Smith-Williams isn't getting it done either, like at a high level or at a solid backup level in my opinion. And Casey Toohill is just like so far below him.
I think you get more from Toohill and like maybe Tony or Bradley King than you do from James Smith-Williams.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, so if you guys don't want to add anything there, we can kind of talk about this receiver core, because I love Diami Brown. Obviously, as a UNC guy, I love Diami Brown. I think there's something there with him. I just don't know if he's necessarily going to get the opportunities to unlock it in Washington. Maybe he will with Curtis Samuel kind of being injury-prone at this point. Samuel starts missing a lot of games. Maybe they give him the PT he needs. But he needs to get out there and he needs to really get the reps. And with this receiver core, it just feels like it's kind of hard for him to find that. So I'm worried about his development. But hopefully, I'm not going to say hopefully like Samuel gets hurt, but hopefully he gets some time. And hopefully having a real quarterback with Carson Wentz can help him out. But as a whole, I mean, this is a fantastic receiver core. Even though I'm not high on Dotson, like I said, I think he projects as a 3, and that's what he is for you guys, so that's fine. Terry McLaurin, top 10 receiver. Curtis Samuel, when he's actually on the field, is a stud. How do you guys feel about the receiver core? I'm sure you agree with me, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I've never looked into our receiver room and just thought, that won't get it done. Even the year that we were literally projected as the 32nd best receiving core, I was like, this room's fine. It was rookie Terry and Paul Richardson. Yeah, I mean, I like the room. I think that you get a lot of different things with the guys here. Like you said, I think that you would like to see more from Diami because it was kind of like a differing of roles for him last year. Heineke didn't really fit what he can kind of do, taking the top off the defense-wise.
Mm-hmm.
And he had one really nice catch against Dallas, but you just didn't see much from him all year. I think your guys last year was really just Harry, Cam Sims probably. He was in there a good amount, and he's still on the team, and I think he'll be a nice depth piece as well still. And it was who was the slot? Humphreys.
Carter?
Yeah, Humphreys.
Yeah, they both kind of split as over the middle kind of players. They were both good, but neither of them remain on the team. But I think that they've got a pretty solid all-around room. I don't know of any sleeper guys right now because I haven't really looked that heavy into camp. The only thing I've really seen from camp is that Cole Turner's been doing his thing, to be honest with you.
Fair enough.
But, yeah, I think it's a pretty solid all-around room. You got some nice depth pieces.
Absolutely.
Calvin Harmon could come back and surprise some people too.
Oh, I have seen that.
Forgot he was even on this team.
Was it him or Gandy Golden who they were saying might?
Yeah, Gandy Golden's tight end now. I think.
Yeah, they're playing him at tight end. They're trying him out at tight end.
I not to wish bad on him, but I wouldn't. I'm not too confident that'll make the team as that. But could. I mean, you kind of got. Well, actually, I don't know Thomas's availability at all. I know
if Turner's playing well in camp, I think Logan Thomas should be fine. And then we've got John Bates, who I fell in love with today watching tape on. Yeah, dude's a stud. Dude's a stud, straight up.
I'm not a huge PFF fan, but I'm pretty sure they said he was the top run blocking tight end in the whole league last year.
Yeah, I'm not with PFF either, but Bates is nice.
But I think that's a grade that you do see on tape. Sure.
Yeah. And he's shown flashes as a pass catcher as well. He had a couple nice plays for you guys last year. He's not the most athletically gifted. He's not somebody that you're going to see like with blazing speed or anything like that. But he's tough. He's strong. Like we said, he's a fantastic. Too. Yep, very smart. Fantastic run blocker, and he's going to be able to get open here and there and be able to outmuscle some guys and get the ball downfield. So I like him a lot. I like how he projects. He wasn't even on my radar until today. I was watching. I think I was trying to watch Gibson, and he just kept catching my eye with how good of a run blocker he was. So
yeah,
I'm definitely a big fan of him. But
when it comes to the tight end room, I'm most interested for Samus Reyes. I don't know if he'll make the team.
Yeah,
that'll be interesting. Because it's kind of one of those guys to where you don't you see a lot of former basketball players come to play, and you don't you point out the ones who do work, but not too many of them end up panning out. So I think it'll be really interesting to see. Yeah. Because I remember thinking he was okay in the run blocking snaps he got, but not great. Because physically he should be able to do it great, but it's like a whole new thing in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's probably why he definitely got limited snaps. Somebody's gonna have to step up too. No more Seals Jones, who was pretty decent last season when he got the time, mainly early in the season, but he was a fine depth tight end too. So it'll be an interesting room to see how that pans out.
Yeah. Sweep, you've been awful quiet. Do you want to add anything here with the receivers or the tight ends?
With the tight ends, I like the room. I'm just more worried about if Thomas is going to come back. We saw in the games he did play, the Chargers game and the Raiders game, the impact he makes on the red zone. I feel like if he was healthy the whole season, it would have made Heineke's job a lot easier, considering one of Heineke's weaknesses was the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
This year he led the league in red zone interceptions.
Yeah.
I think having Thomas could have really helped him out and made this offense much better against the red zone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying absolutely. You're good.
Mm-hmm. I think one of Heineke, when it came to the red zone, I think he was just sometimes he would just, be too high on players who may not have exactly been the tallest and guys, putting the ball too low on some taller guys. But if you saw in the Vegas game, he had a crazy nice back the end zone. It really wasn't a great throw, but it was fine enough to where Thomas, 6'6" frame, was able to go up and get it. And that's really his game. He's a fine run blocker, but he's pretty athletic for someone who's 6'6", obviously a former quarterback. So I think I don't know. I think I'd say he's pretty underrated. But, there's a reason that people haven't really talked is because he was hurt.
Yeah.
So it's, I think he's a great player. And when he comes back, I think a lot of people will see that result. I think Wentz will really like him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if Thomas plays this year, him and John Bates are perfect complements to each other. It's kind of like we were just talking about the linebackers with Davis and Holcomb, except both of them have it figured out, and you're not waiting on one of them to kind of, figure out his role and figure out what he's doing. They're a fantastic duo, and if Thomas can come back and play healthy, it's going to be one of the better. I'm not going to say one of the best tight end rooms in the league, but across the board, it's going to be one of the most solid and one of the most consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm a firm believer, I say it all the time, a quarterback's best friend is a good tight end. So Wentz, for all of his mistakes, if he has a good tight end in Logan Thomas, it's going to take a lot of pressure off him. It's going to make his job a hell of a lot easier. While we're talking about the tight ends, because I'm me, I got to lump in the fact that you guys actually have a fullback. There's like 20 teams in the NFL that have one, so anytime it happens, I got to bring it up. And I got to be honest with you. Alex Arma is like the most mediocre fullback I think I've ever seen. The dude is not good. I hate to say it.
He definitely doesn't really do anything that pops off the page.
Yeah, I hate to say it because, I don't ever want to bring down a fullback, but he's just not good. It's just not there. He's not athletic. He's not somebody that's going to get out there in space and lay somebody out. He's just kind of there. He's one of those guys that was like a slow running back, so they were like, we'll try him at fullback, and it just didn't really work. But the Commanders have him. Sorry, he wasn't a running back. He was a tight end. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So he was a slow tight end that couldn't catch, and they're like, we'll put him at fullback, and it didn't work out too well. So he's there. You guys have a fullback. I don't even know if he'll end up making your final 53-man roster because you guys picked him up late in the season last year, right?
Yeah, I remember that. I think it was right when we got eliminated from the playoffs. Maybe a little before that.
It's just like, fuck it. Let's bring in a fullback, make things interesting. We're out of the playoffs already.
Plus, they had so many injuries that had to fill those spots up somewhere.
Yeah, he's just not very good. I'm not a big fan of his, unfortunately. I mean, I'm a fan of his because he's a fullback, but he's not a very good one, unfortunately. So I guess the only position we haven't talked about offensively is this running back room. And it seems like every Commanders fan thinks Antonio Gibson's a future superstar. I don't know if you guys are in that boat or not. Okay, all right. I like this. You guys are realists. You're realists. You know the truth.
It's not that he's bad by any means. I think he still has to learn the position. Like you think, 2 years in he would, but I guess it's just still a really tough learning curve for him. I do think when I say breakout, I'm not saying he'll be an elite running back. I think that, obviously I think he was around 7th in the league in rushing, which, accumulative stats don't tell the full story. I think he's a good running back who doesn't make crazy great decisions. I think that he's got the talent, and you also saw last year, a lot of fumbles. Didn't see that as much as rookie year, but last year that was his problem. So, you got to get used to holding on to the ball a little bit more. And I think he'll be fine. It's a good old line. He can run through really the guards, to be honest. I think he's got the tools, but if he does start fumbling, again, you've got two other backs that you really like.
Yeah.
And they love McKissick.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much for running the ball, but I mean, he ended up coming back from that Buffalo offer, which shocked me.
Yeah.
100%. Which you
when it comes, sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay.
Yeah. When it comes to Gibson, I mean, he's a home run hitter. The dude's explosive. He's got all the physical traits in the world, but he has no vision. He just can't see the field. He just can't. It. And we were talking about this in the Philadelphia Eagles episode because Miles Sanders has the exact same problem. If you don't have good vision in the NFL, it doesn't matter who's in front of you. It doesn't matter what's going on. You're not going to succeed. Like my favorite example to go to, and it's a little bit because of bias, but I also think he's a great example, is David Montgomery. He's not a super athletic dude. He doesn't have a lot of speed to him. He doesn't have a lot of that, he's not a guy that's going to shift into second gear and take the top off a defense as a runner. But the dude has some of the best vision in football. The dude can see everything. So when he hits that open hole, he's always going to get you 5, 6, 7 yards. And he's one of the most consistent runners in football because of it. He doesn't have to rely on that physicality. He can rely on what's in here. And Antonio Gibson just doesn't have it. He's a solid, second running back for somebody. Like if you're running a committee backfield, if you have a couple guys back there, which Washington does, but he's still the lead back in it. And I don't think that's necessarily the role you want him in. If he's like your second guy where you bring him in, if you have like a consistent 3-down runner and then you bring him in to kind of give him a breather, hope he can hit a home run on like a pitch or something. Absolutely. But he's not a number one guy. He's just not. And is he coming into a contract year or is that next year?
He just played second season.
Okay. So in 2 years from now, if he doesn't kind of like you said, almost learn the position. And it's crazy to say, but it's almost true. I mean, he's just kind of like running around back there. It's not like he's actually relying on the technical aspect of the game. If he doesn't get that figured out in 2 years, he's not a guy that you're going to extend. He's a running back. You don't give running backs second contracts if they can't play at an elite level, which is another thing. Like, they took Brian Robinson in the 3rd round. In today's NFL, you don't take a running back in the first 3 rounds unless you consider it a position in need, unless you consider it a position you really need to upgrade. And Robinson, granted, he's a different running back than Gibson. He doesn't have that speed to him. He's more of a power back, almost like a goal line short yardage back. But he's a guy that has the vision and I think can be the number 1 back for Washington. So maybe if Gibson 2 years from now realizes his role and isn't asking for big money, they'll keep him around. But I don't think he's going to be somebody that gets extended long term.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't expect him to get like a super long-term contract. Right now, probably not even a second one.
Right.
And it's not because, like I said, it's not because he's bad. He doesn't have like he doesn't have some of the tools to be a bell cow, which is kind of like if you're signing someone to an extension, that's kind of what you want.
Exactly.
Unless they're like a pure, rotational back, like when they re-signed McKissick, it's because of what he does in the pass game. But, and obviously this wasn't his first team though. But I think that Gibson, like you said, it's really just the vision with him. I mean, sometimes it just feels like he is running around. And don't get me wrong, I mean, he can break off big runs. Because, I mean, some holes are so big that, like, your grandfather could walk through type stuff.
Right.
But, he's going to, I think, even if he's not statistically a crazy lot better, I do think he'll have maybe like a minor breakout, just, see improvements in his game.
If he can learn how to see the defense, that's all you need out of him. That's literally all you need to ask of him at this point.
I mean, I think this offensive line is more tailored toward Brian Robinson than Gibson, to be honest. I also think Brian Robinson is 100% going to be our starting running back in 3 years. Like, I don't see any world we release where we keep Gibson.
I think it's unlikely if he doesn't like turn into like if he doesn't have like an elite season. Like, that's the thing. Like, even if NFL circles, like, even if you look a lot better than your stats, sometimes you won't get that second contract if you're not putting up.
No. Yeah.
One of those things.
The numbers do matter.
It's fine because a running back is a very replaceable position. Now, some guys are irreplaceable to a certain team, but Gibson's not really that guy.
Yeah. And I mean, you look at Brian Robinson, he's smarter than Gibson. He's got better vision than Gibson. He fights harder than Gibson. He's more aggressive than Gibson. The only thing Gibson, I would say, has over Robinson is the speed. And kind of like Zach said, the offensive line, the way it's tailored, you don't need that. If Robinson's coming out there and playing like a bulked up David Montgomery and getting you 5-6 yards a carry just based off his toughness and his vision, that's all you need out of a running back these days. You're not expecting him to carry you all the way down the field. This isn't John Riggins we're talking about. We're talking about a running back in 2022 onward. It's different.
I mean, especially when you have like Terry doing a jet sweep, Curtis like doing motion, Diami does like we do last year. Scott Turner upped the motion in the offense so much. When you have that much gadget, that much motion, I mean, if you have a bruiser in the backfield, like it's kind of easy to get 5-6 yards.
Right.
Yeah.
Sweep, you want to add anything to that?
I was going to say, I saw a stat in like December, I think. It was like week 17, that Jonathan Taylor and Antonio Gibson had like the same amount of perfectly blocked run plays. And Taylor had like 800 yards and Gibson had like 450 on him. Which is not a good look at all. That Gibson just, whenever there's like a gap, we saw it like in the Packers game especially, he'll just like instead like unnecessarily make it to where he has to like fight for yardage when he could just take an easy gap and go for like a simple 6 yards, and he just ends up making it like a tough 4.
Yeah, I mean,
the Packers game was so tough to watch.
If you've got an elite offensive line parting the Red Sea for your running back every play, and he can't hit the fucking holes, what's the point? What is the point? Yeah, like I don't want to go at Gibson too much because he is a solid back, but if you don't have the vision, if you can't hit the holes, you don't belong as the number 1 runner on a team. Like I said, if you keep him around to be your home run hitter, your number 2 guy, hit him on a pitch every now and again, don't make him hit the hole, make him use his physical traits? Sure. But as your number one runner, it's just not going to work. Mm-hmm. It's just not. I'm glad you guys agree with me on that, by the way, because I was really worried I was going to have to fight tooth and nail over Antonio fucking Gibson. Because everything I've seen on social media is that Washington fans already put him in their top 10, and they think he's the second coming, and he's, just all this different praise. And, I get it. Yeah. He's an exciting player to watch when he's actually doing things.
I'll give it to him. Right. He does have flashes, but it's you have to see it on a consistent basis.
Exactly. He's extremely inconsistent.
And I see some Washington fans make excuses for him, we don't run the ball as much some games because we get down so early. It's it's not like we abandon the run. I mean, we never do, really, if I'm being 100% honest.
Here's a crazy concept.
Weird. We abandoned the run when Alex Smith was the quarterback.
Right.
Which was wild because, I love Alex Smith, but even though he led us to the playoffs, he could not throw the ball consistently.
Yeah.
His leg was shot, throwing off of it. You felt like he was going to get hurt every game. You kind of covered your eyes and looked out your little break in your fingers.
Yeah. And listen, here's a crazy concept that maybe some Washington fans need to grasp. Maybe you're not running the football because your running back can't consistently do his job.
Sure.
That's something that people like to forget. When you talk about any player in the NFL that has upside and they're not getting enough usage, most of the time it's just because they don't deserve the usage. I'm not necessarily trying to take a shot at Washington fans, but that's a very common thing. But looking at the rest of the backfield, the only other really notable name here is J.D. Mckissick, who we've kind of talked about a good bit. He's a great third down back. He's one of the best receiving backs in football. Like you guys said, I'm absolutely shocked he turned down an opportunity to go play with Josh Allen to stick around with Carson Wentz.
Same amount of money too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird. It just doesn't. Maybe I don't know. And it would be one thing if this was I hate to keep shitting on you guys, but if it was a functional organization where you knew the players loved the guys up top, they loved the GM, they loved the owner, that would be one thing. But he denied going to one of the best ran teams in football. That I'm not going to say probably might be the best team in the AFC to go back to Washington with Dan Snyder. Mm-hmm. Why?
Yeah.
What the fuck is the point of that? I just don't get it.
But I will say, I think that honestly, and now obviously he's always in the news, which is why this is crazy. I think Dan has had a lot less not impact on the image of the team because it gets worse every year. But when Ron came in, he was we're going to do the thing my way. I'm not going to be a
True.
coach. And he brought in his guys, and I think that's kind of it could it's not changing the culture at all because you see what Dan still does. But I think that the players in the locker room do feel a different way. Maybe not 100% so, but they do. I think they have more respect than they did during the Jay Gruden era because Jay Gruden's an idiot.
Yeah.
There's no better way to talk about it.
On top of that, too, it's not like Dan Snyder's really in the day-to-day anymore. He's not allowed to be. It's his wife running everything, right?
Yeah, technically, yeah.
Oh, my Lord.
I do want to say Jason Wright has stepped in, and he's done, in my opinion, a phenomenal job for the last, 2 years.
Okay.
I love him at the top. He's a very much needed step in the right direction.
Okay.
100% agreed.
Yeah, and I get that, and I understand the Riverboat Ron thing. I mean, he's a different animal when it comes to running his ship, literally with the nickname and everything. Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's still a team owned by Dan Snyder, so it's hard to grasp. I don't know if you guys want to. I mean, I feel like we kind of have to get into it to talk about what's going on with him. First of all, just so we don't get off the topic of J.D. Mckissick, anyone want to add anything to what I said or what's already been said, rather?
Did you see him do that juke earlier in training camp?
I did not.
I actually did see that clip somewhere. It was
that was.
I can't remember who it was though, but he did
it on James Smith Williams, I think.
Yeah, it was on that. Was it on a screen?
It was a little flat route, and Wentz overthrew it. He caught it with one hand, and then did a back half spin and juked him out.
Wentz has overthrown flats in practice.
Yeah,
overthrow.
Fitting.
It was more
Well, yeah, it wasn't a good throw though.
It wasn't placed. No, because I couldn't see who threw the ball, I remember thinking.
Okay. Interesting. Sweep, you want to add anything?
I feel like McKissick, people look at our injuries, like they see Chase Young and Montez Sweat go down. I think McKissick had the most impact when he went down because after that, our offense just sucked.
Yeah.
McKissick was just Heineke's safety blanket, and when he was gone, Heineke, I think, just started playing way worse.
That is facts. That's facts.
That's when you started seeing him turn the ball over a lot. It's not that he's like, because Heineke's not a stupid quarterback, but once he had to start forcing the ball into different windows, it was just not working for him.
No.
Yeah. I want to point out one thing as well that I was scrolling through my notes and there was a point I forgot to bring up about Carson Wentz. We've talked a lot about, or at least I have talked a lot about how he makes some goofy decisions, and sometimes it feels like, I don't want to say the moment is too big, but he just tries to do too much and plays hero ball. And this offense you guys run is very much like a traditional pro-style offense, very old school, very simplistic, and I think that's going to be very good for Carson because you won't have to overthink things. And I feel like that's something that maybe not a lot of people are considering or not a lot of people are looking at, because the less Carson has to think, I think the better off you guys are. Because if he can just make quick, simple reads, he's going to hit them. You know, he's got the accuracy, he's got the arm talent. It's just once he has to play out of structure and once he has to start to improvise, that's when we see the goofy shit like left-handed throws towards defensive tackles and whatnot. So maybe Wentz is primed for a bigger season than some people might think. I'm not going to say I think Wentz is going to ball out, but he might be better than what some people's expectations are.
Plus, I feel like this offense just kind of has a bit of everything when you look at it, right from top to bottom. I think most of the positions on offense, including quarterback, actually, I think is a pretty decent depth. Where if someone's not really working out, you can put someone else in that role, and they'll be able to bring something else to the table as well.
Yeah, and I mean, this is definitely the best offense Wentz has had around him in his career, especially when you look at the weapons, the offensive line. It's not quite as good as Indy's, but it's still a very good offensive line. Running back's not quite as good as Indy's, but it's still a good backfield as a whole. You know, the unit's pretty solid. And the wide receivers blow what he's had out of the water. The only concern with me, I guess, is if Wentz can get rid of that goofy shit, but like I said, that shouldn't be as big of a problem with the type of offense. And I really hope he gets rid of his toxicity as a leader. You know, we hear all the stories about what he was doing in Philly when Nick Foles was playing, and how he was like preying upon his downfall and whatnot in the playoffs. And you just can't have a leader that's like that. Like if Taylor Heineke goes out there, if Wentz gets hurt and starts playing good, if we start hearing stories that Wentz is like hoping Heineke plays bad so he gets his job back early or something, I just don't get it. You know, I would hope that wouldn't be the case, but I guess it's possible. But I guess it is kind of... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, nope, you got it.
I want to note that before, like, the start of the season, when Quentin Nelson was down for those, like, first few weeks in Indy, like, their offensive line was not the same whatsoever.
Right.
Like, I think Indy started off, like, they didn't start off hot. I don't know the record to be exact, but they started off bad, and then they went on, like, a nice streak. But during that beginning, like, their offensive line was not good.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Wentz, everyone said, oh, they started bad. Wentz got a bad rap for that, but, I mean,
he played pretty solid weeks 4 through 11. We saw a pretty solid Carson Wentz, and then towards the end of the season, he started to teeter off a little bit. But that's just kind of Wentz for you. He's inconsistent. It'll be interesting to see what he's able to put together with this team. But I think having an inconsistent quarterback that is a bit toxic towards his teammates is probably very fitting for this team, because I would argue this is the most dysfunctional organization in football just because of what's going on up top with Dan Snyder. I mean, you've got the stadium falling apart. You've got shit leaking onto fans. You've got your owner pimping out cheerleaders. He's currently sitting on a yacht and throwing a temper tantrum because they're trying to subpoena him to talk to him in court. Like, what are you going to do? You know, like, I just don't understand how the NFL continues to let this man own a franchise. The best thing that could happen for Washington and Washington fans is the NFL to force this man to sell the team. And I think that's definitely a possibility given the stuff that came out earlier. I want to say it was early in the offseason, maybe a couple months ago, where we found out that he was lying about how much money he was making, or the team was lying about how much they were making in ticket sales and fucking with the books. Like, the NFL, the way they are, you can pimp out your cheerleaders, you can abuse your fans, you can do whatever. But when you touch their money, when you fuck with their wallet, that's when they get you. And I'm hoping.
No, I was going to say also to that point, I mean, another reason it's crazy the league hasn't done anything about him. We have the lowest attendance. Now, I'm not as sure because of obviously nonsense that happened with ticket purchasing.
Right.
But we have the lowest recorded attendance compared to everyone else by a lot.
Yeah.
I think that Roger Goodell of all people would try and make a change there because he's all about his paper.
Well, did you guys watch the committee hearing, in front of Congress with Goodell?
I didn't.
They put him on the very opening. Congress was pissed to begin with. They're like, "Why are we talking about football right now?" But he said he has no power. It's 100% up to the owners. And I did see that the owners were collecting votes. Or there was a rumor that they were collecting votes.
That was a rumor. I think Goodell ended up shooting that. Yeah, Goodell ended up shooting that down. It was a rumor, unfortunately. Yeah. Or at least that's their story. Maybe it is true and Roger's just trying to save face. But you're right. Roger doesn't get any say. It's all up to the other owners. And that's especially why I'm surprised. Because the way it works, at least to my understanding, and I'm not some NFL financial genius or anything, but from what I've read, from what I understand, the reason the lying about the books is so bad is because you have to send a certain percentage back to the league that kind of goes into a big pot that's split amongst everybody just in case some teams aren't making quite as much, just to keep all the teams afloat. So if you're fucking with the collective pot of money that the league is working with,
it's stealing.
Yeah, I mean, it is stealing. You're right. He's literally stealing money out of the pockets of other owners. And I'm surprised they weren't just that day, 31 out of 31, get him the fuck out of here, or 30 out of 31, because I don't think do the Packers have a representative? Because they're fan owned or whatever. I don't know how they work. Clue. Either way,
I'm
30.
Pretty sure they're owned by the fans.
Right. You can buy stocks in Green Bay or whatever. Yeah. Which, listen, I will die on this heel. Justin Fields, once he has his breakout, needs to buy stocks in Green Bay so he can one up Aaron Rodgers' "I own you" thing, and he can literally own the Packers.
Yeah,
I stand by that.
Sorry,
he needs to do that.
I don't know if that breakout will ever happen.
All right, listen, I will throw hands right now. We're not getting into it. I know the man whose quarterback is Carson Wentz ain't talking right now.
I don't know. I mean,
I like Fields.
Yeah. Listen, I could go off about Fields, but we got to talk about Washington, unfortunately.
Yes.
But yeah, with Snyder, I'm just really shocked he still has ownership of this team. And I don't remember if I said it on camera or not, but the fact that you have, what was it I said? Oh, we were talking about Watson potentially coming to Washington, and now him and Dan Snyder in the same building would be the most toxic environment possible for any woman. I cannot get over the fact that this man was literally pimping out his cheerleaders. He was forcing his cheerleaders to go on private planes and shit with business partners, and he was forcing them to pose for nude calendars and shit, or threatening to take their job, threatening to take their dreams. Because I know some people are going to look at that and be like, well, they could have just said no, but that's not how it works. Anyone with a brain knows that's not how it works. So the fact that he was doing that shit, man, he's just such a disgusting piece of human filth. And I think it's very fitting that he's currently throwing a fucking temper tantrum on his boat, even though I think he actually, someone I think said that he scheduled a meeting with Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm 19. I don't know jack shit about politics and how the world works, but they got to do something to this man. He's lying about money. He's doing cruddy shit behind the scenes. He's putting fans in danger, like we saw when the fucking stadium fell apart on top of Jalen Hurts, and then the leaks where there was literally shit dripping onto fans. It's FedEx Field, right? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I suck with stadium names. Yeah. FedEx Field is the only.
RFK.
What is it?
But now they play in FedEx.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, FedEx Field is the only NFL stadium I have ever been to. And I can tell you right now, it was underwhelming. I went in high school.
That Monday night game?
Yeah, that Monday night game, Bears, Washington, was beautiful. Listen, that sack Danny Trevathan had where he faked out Brandon Sheriff. You know what I'm talking about? He stared him down, looked the other way, Sheriff looked the other way, and Trevathan took off. I saw that in real time. I was so pumped.
Now
Because the way
I really thought we was about to make a comeback, and then Case Keenum's goofy ass went over on a QB sneak. Like, that's not how you do it. You're not on the goal line, though.
Yeah, but
because they didn't really make it very close, but it was like somewhat shooting range. But then it was just all over.
Yeah, no, you guys lost to Mitch Trubisky and Taylor Gabriel. That's who torched you.
That's like his best game of the year. Because that was the year that it kind of all fell apart for Mitch, wasn't it?
I mean, it fell apart for Mitch from the get-go.
Yeah.
He sucked his rookie year, 2018. It was like, okay. He's kind of coasting off the defense, but he's making some throws. 2019, it was like, oh. And then 2020, it was like, okay, we're done.
No, I remember the people I talked to. They I think it was just because that they did have a winning record. They like really thought Mitch was a truth. And I was like, I don't know. I haven't really watched him.
I was one of those people.
I really didn't watch much Chicago when they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
I did want them to beat Philly, but
yeah, we won't talk about what happened. But that game, the way I was watching, because it was the first time I'd ever seen a game or an NFL game live. So I was like, okay, I'm going to watch a different player on every single play just to see what they do. And the only player that did anything big when I decided to focus solely on them was Danny Trevathan on that play. I saw that shit in real time and I lost my mind. And there were 3 elderly people sitting in front of me in like full Redskins, because they were the Redskins at the time, full Redskins gear, like big Letterman jackets, big hats. They had Redskins chains coming out of their pockets. And I jumped up.
Did they have face paint on?
No, they didn't have face paint on, unfortunately. But it was like 2 older men and then an older lady. And I jumped up and I said, how do you fucking like that? And they looked at me like I just told them I shot their kid. Like, they were beyond pissed at me. Because you got to realize I was like 16. So some 16, and I didn't have the beard either, so I looked like a baby. So some baby-faced teenager just jumping up saying, how do you fucking like that? I got in trouble for it because I was with my dad and he yelled at me. But it was a hell of a game. It was so much fun to watch. Yeah. But that stadium itself was very, very underwhelming. And the fact that it's correct. The fact that it's falling apart now is just depressing. Now, I joke all the time, and I would feel so bad for you guys if this happened, but I would also think it would be the funniest thing in the world. I really want there to be a world where they get sold, someone buys them, and rebrands them again.
Jeff Bezos.
That was the rumor. I doubt it, though. I don't know if that's Jeff's. That's his investment.
What if Elon buys them and renames them, brings them back to being the football team? Because I feel like that would be a very Elon thing to do.
That's grade A character behavior.
Yeah. Or he does something even goofier, like the Washington Teslas.
No.
For Washington, everyone have 10 childrens.
Oh my God!
I can't even talk about kids. His father is on some wild things for us on Twitter. That's the whole other thing.
Yeah. But yeah, in all seriousness, I hope this team gets sold. I hope they don't I do hope they rebrand, but I hope for your sake they don't, just because it would kind of be shady to go through that again. But I just anything to get Dan Snyder out of the NFL at this point. I hate that he's somebody that one of the 32 most powerful people in the league. It's absolutely ridiculous. But unless we have anything else to say about that, we can move back to actual football and talk about this defense, because this defense is interesting, to say the least.
Top 5.
Let's settle down.
Okay.
Let's settle down. There is no depth. You cannot have a top 5 defense with no depth.
Yeah.
That's not how that works. On paper, like if you're only looking at the starters, like if this is Madden, injuries are turned off, fatigue is turned off. Possible.
That's the whole thing. They had a lot of injuries last year, and a lot of their depth even got injured too.
Yep.
And it was just, ooh.
Yep. Like
and defense kind of hit a curve at one point where they were playing better, but we were still losing. So it was like,
yeah.
Because Heineke, man.
Yeah, that Denver game was brutal. They forced a fumble.
Oh my gosh.
To take to like tie the game up, and then just they couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah. I think the best place to start here is just talk about this defensive line. Because the 4 guys across the board, your starters, with Young, Payne, Allen, Sweat, that could comprise the best front 4 in football. But if one of them goes down, all of a sudden it goes from like, I'll say top 5 to like maybe 15.
To probably middle
right,
attack.
Right. Because who are you relying on? Fedarian Mathis, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of. Casey Toohill, Shaka Toney, James Smith-Williams, who, was it Zach has been shitting on this whole time? I think it was Zach. Somebody didn't
I don't like him or Casey Tuhill. I don't like either of them.
Okay. Right. David Bada, Justin Hamilton, Tyler Clark, Daniel Wise. Like, the depth is awful. There is nothing here. There is no depth.
Bada was interesting, but I don't actually know if because he didn't do anything last year, but he was like an interesting guy to put on the team. I doubt he really did anything. If I had to put stock into any of the edges, it'd probably be Tony, maybe Bradley King, because they were both kind of okay when they played last year, but it's still not. You're not confident going into the season. That is.
Yeah. And then on top of that, would you guys say it's crazy to say that Chase Young was disappointing last year?
I'd say statistically, he didn't play as well as he did in his rookie year, and it seemed like he did face less double teams because his rookie year, like I don't want to like get into like calling people out. A lot of people that I saw didn't. And maybe it's because I was looking for it because I'm a Washington fan, but I saw a lot of people say that he might not have deserved his defensive rookie of the year because he only had like 7 sacks, and I just couldn't believe it. I mean, you don't often see a rookie at what I believe was 6th or maybe 7th in double team rate. I mean, he was eating up blocks, he was doing everything, and he's still a great pass rusher. But yeah, last year I think he kind of got off to a slow start, and right when it seemed like he was kind of picking it up, he got hurt. So that was a really tough break for him. I think Jonathan Allen was great all year.
Oh, I love Jonathan Allen.
He's your consistent guy down there. I mean, and he's just consistently grown every year he's winning the league. And he's really their guy. He's really the guy on the D line that you can trust. I think Sweat was really pretty good when he played. Obviously, I'm pretty sure he had the jaw injury. That kind of messed him up. But, yeah, I'd say he was pretty good too. I think Settle is a huge loss. Even though I think Mathis will be a fine rotational guy. And because the thing with Ioannidis was good, but he would always get hurt. But Settle never really got hurt. He was always pretty consistent.
Where did he end up?
That could be a pretty big.
He's in Buffalo.
Buffalo. Of course he's in Buffalo. Great.
Of course he is.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this defensive line, first of all, I want to say I think you probably have the best run defending edge duo in football. Montez Sweat is probably like top 3 or 4, maybe even higher in terms of run defense. But as pass rushers, Chase Young, at least last year, like you said, he started off really slow. I was very worried about him. And I'm worried his career, I don't like to give players like one-on-one comparisons because I don't think they're very fitting. Because you're never going to have 2 of the same player. But Chase Young reminds me a lot of Jadeveon Clowney in the sense that he's a freak athlete, super high upside, but Clowney never necessarily put it together as an elite pass rusher. But against the run, he's fantastic. And I think Chase Young, at least what I've seen out of him, maybe year 3 it'll be a little bit different. But last year, if he continues to play like that, I think that's kind of the trajectory we're heading towards with him, which is fine. Like, that's still a really good defensive piece. But we're talking about a guy that was it number 1 or number 2 overall? Number 2, right?
Number 2, behind you, bro.
Yeah, right. And you don't want to take a run-stopping defensive end or a run-stopping edge rusher with your 2nd overall pick. That's just not smart team building.
So if you were to set an over-under on his sack total, where would you put it?
I don't know. I mean, shit, I suck with this. What did he have last year?
1.5.
How many?
He got hurt like week 6.
I heard week 10.
How many did he have?
1.5 sacks.
Oh my goodness.
He had 7.5 his rookie year when he won Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I would say.
I don't think the sacks necessarily.
No, they don't. You're right, they don't. But
although you could see there like a slight regression. I do think that the defense had crazy high praise that I understood to an extent, but I was just sitting here like, man, they're not going to be the best defense just because that's just how it never goes here.
Right.
I was optimistic because they definitely showed moments. I think that you got, obviously there's John Allen who had his big moments. I think the guy that I saw the most from last year consistently was Cameron Curl.
Yeah.
Secondary. He had a big year, but there was not much consistently throughout the whole unit. A lot of guys got hurt. I think that was a big downfall because, like you said, I mean, not a lot of depth.
Yeah. If I were going to give you an over-under on Chase's sacks, so I'd probably say right around 6. I think 6 is a safe bet. If he can play the full year, again, I don't think he's going to be a guy that's necessarily going to rack up sacks. I just don't think that's going to be him. But again, it's not a big deal. You would like to see more out of him from where he was drafted, but at this point, you just want production, and I think you're going to get that out of Chase, especially against the run. At the very least, he's a wicked athlete. Like, his bend is insane, but at the very least, he's gonna get in the quarterback's face. He's gonna get you pressures, and that goes a long way, especially when you have a guy like Jonathan Allen. If they start taking,
he cleans stuff up.
Yeah. Exactly. If that's what it's going to be, if Chase is going to, not Chase, if Young is going to go in there and set up Jonathan Allen, let him go in and clean up, you're fine. Like, Jonathan Allen, I have in my notes written literally under Jonathan Allen, just he's a fucking monster, because he is. The dude is insane. He's one of the most fun. Like, I love the trenches. That's obviously, as a fullback fan, I love the old school trench shit. So watching Jonathan Allen is, for lack of better words, it's like football porn. Like, it's so fun. The dude gets in there so quickly. He's quick. He's powerful. He looked very good he's when a full package. Yeah, and he looked good without Chase Young and Montez Sweat. When they weren't on the field, he was still playing at that level. He's just not good against the run. That's his only downside. And that's fine, because that's not necessarily what you're asking him to do. Like, the way defenses are built nowadays, you can get away with having an interior lineman that's not good against the run. You just rotate them out when they're, you think they're going to run and whatnot. But he, and even then, I think he can be a good run stopper. He just needs to become a little bit more disciplined, because he really, really likes shooting gaps. And granted, that can disrupt the run, but he's never going to be a guy that's going to get back there and get to the running back consistently. So if he can just discipline himself a little bit more, which he can definitely do, he was a super smart lineman, he could legitimately get himself up there as the next guy up after Aaron Donald. And after Aaron Donald's gone, maybe that guy, I would say he's already in that conversation. I would say it's like him, Hayward, and Jones as that next kind of tier, but he's a stud.
Where'd you put Jeffrey Simmons in that?
Jeffrey Simmons is hard to rank. I've got him top 10, but
I like him.
I do too, but I don't think he's quite like breaking in the top 5 yet. I think this is going to be a goofy comparison, because I fucking hate Madden, but I think EA had him at like the 7th or 8th best defensive tackle, and I think that's fine. I can get behind that.
Yeah.
But
I haven't heard much from Buckner the last couple of years, but he's always great.
He's just not a guy that stuffs the stat sheet. He does his job.
No.
He sets up other people. He's very good. And he... also, looking at this defensive line, one guy that nobody's really mentioned yet is Daron Payne, who I absolutely love as well. He's another guy that's really good at being your cleanup. Both your defensive tackles are really good pass rushers, and both of them are really good at getting back there and cleaning up. Like, Payne, I have it written down. He had 47 pressures and 5 sacks last year as a second defensive tackle. That's fucking insane. That is insane production from your DT2. So if he's going to be like, we'll put it this way, if Jonathan Allen's Batman and Daron Payne is Robin, that's incredible. If you can keep those two together long term, that's incredible. You're gonna have...
It's all about the chemistry with Payne, because he had I think we all remember his little outburst on the him and Allen had a big argument on the sideline.
Was that who that
Sunday
was?
Night football game.
I remember that happening. I just didn't remember who it was.
Okay. It was him and John Allen, the Alabama boys. That was kind of a thing, and then we obviously had the rumors that we were going to trade him, and the whole time I was just kind of like, I mean, if you get an offer that you can't turn down, but like, Payne's a really good player, him and Allen both kind of split double teams, and then when they are, the other guy just, they get 3 really, really quick in pass rush situations. I think that they're a great tandem to keep together. And I don't think Fedarian Mathis was drafted to be like a starter to trade.
No. Absolutely not. He's a rotational guy.
Yeah, I think that you kind of got your guys there. And unless that relationship with Payne and the team is really broken, you should definitely try and re-sign him like you did with John Allen. Because I think they got, like, considering to the other defensive tackles that I've seen get paid, I think John Allen got a pretty good contract on both sides.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And then the other guy on the defensive line, we kind of touched him a little bit. We're looking at Montez Sweat here. He's coming off his injury. He started off slow last year, but he's going to be one of the best number 2s in the league. Like, he's awesome. He's really athletic. I mean, what is he, like 6'5", ran a 4.5 or a 4.44 or something. Dude's a freak fucking athlete. He's big. Yeah. He's got long arms. He's got power on top of being quick like that. He's just never going to be like a super elite guy because he doesn't have that bend to him, which is so weird given how quick he is. Like, you would think a guy that's able to move like he is would be able to contort his body, but he just can't. So that's a bit concerning, but he's an incredible run defender and he can get to the quarterback and he's super athletic. So you'll find no complaints from me. I think that front four in terms of starters is one of the best in football, but like we said, there's no depth. So it's a little concerning.
Mm-hmm.
Zach, Sweep, either of you want to add anything to that?
I was going to say with Allen and Payne being really good against the pass, I find it perfect that Montez and Chase's strength is against the run, so it completely balances out the defensive line.
Certainly.
I think it's a good complement to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I don't consider it to be a big deal for Allen to be to be not great against the run. Like I said, everyone kind of plays their role. And if you have two edge rushers that can really make up for it, it's not a big deal. And Allen can still do work. It's not like he's a total liability. Like I said, he's just a little bit too daring. He takes too many, he guesses too much, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
He guesses way too much.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all saw like what this defense did toward the end of 2019 when we went on that run with Alex Smith. I mean, the defense carried the team. The defensive line needs to be healthy. That's the number one thing. Like, obviously, we have no depth. Casey Tuhill and James Smith-Williams are not going to help the team. So, if we can see all four of those guys play like 9 or 10 games together, I think that's like very important.
Yeah. I think the Chase, I really just hope that he comes back quick and he doesn't have to go on like the PUP list to start the year, because then that would mean he'd miss 6 games, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, because I'm not 100 on how that works.
I'm not sure either, to tell you the truth.
I think when you get put on that list, it's 6, but like I said, I'm not 100% sure.
I don't.
But yeah, if he can come back quickly, then I think that we'll be in a good spot, because we've got a pretty tame schedule early in the year. Although the O-lines we play are really, really good O-lines. We got to play Philly and Detroit in the first 3 weeks, I think.
And then you play Chicago on Thursday Night Football, and I'm going to be crying while Jonathan Allen is touching Justin Fields every single fucking play.
Yeah.
It's going to be brutal, dude. Yeah. Like, overall, I think Chicago can match up decently against Washington, but that battle in the trenches is going to be so bad for Chicago both ways, because our defensive line took a big drop. Well, I'm not going to say a big drop off, but we don't have a lot of interior defensive line presence. So I'm scared for that game, which is crazy to say given the fact that it's Washington, but I'm scared for that game just because of the trench play. So moving on.
Home that game?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just saying, who's at home that game on Thursday night?
I think it's Chicago, because me and my dad were going to go to the game, but it's in Chicago, so we can't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's definitely in Chicago, because if it was in Washington, I'd be at the game. I live in Maryland. Yeah. I don't live in Illinois.
Yeah.
So
hate them Steeler fans.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, now, moving on, we already talked about the linebackers. Looking at the corners, this group is abysmal. Like, Jackson and Fuller are good. No. But outside of that, no depth. And Ben St. Juste is your third guy, who I like the upside of, but he's looked like a liability in coverage.
I do like. He didn't play that much last year. That was his thing. He really was. He dealt with some injuries. I think. See, here's the thing with St. Juste. I feel like early in the year, I did like his technique, but also it was like week 1. He just kept getting put on a poster by Mike Williams, and I'm like, you're playing well until you just the attack on the ball, and it's just Mike Williams just bodying you up every play, and it was starting to get hard to watch. But I really do think he has the tools to be a good cornerback. He didn't get to see much of it because he did struggle a little early and then faced injuries. But yeah, once you get past those 3, I'm not very excited, because then you just got a lot of guys you don't know anything about.
You're rocking like 5 or 6 UDFAs in your depth chart right now. Like from this year.
Danny Johnson.
Like it's rough. It's rough. St. Juste, I don't know how he projects as a corner, so to speak, but I think he could be a killer safety. I mean, he's quick. He's 6'3". He's really strong. He's tough. He's good against the run. He can tackle very well. It's just in coverage. I mean, you were kind of talking about his technique. Maybe you saw something I didn't, but I wasn't a big fan of it. I don't think he's fantastic in coverage, but it looks like he's going to be playing in the slot for you guys, so maybe that won't be as big of an issue. Because that size, that speed, you can just kind of go with it. When you're playing in slot, you're going to be guarding mostly smaller guys, and even then, if you're going up against a team like that has a power slot or something, he's big enough to keep up with that. So maybe that's his best bet, but I almost like how he projects more as a safety than a corner. And I know that's kind of the label we assign to any corner that maybe isn't quick or maybe can't cover perfectly, but I think Ben St. Juste legitimately could be a very solid safety, but you got to have him a corner right now.
They still have Apke ranked as a cornerback, don't they?
I think so. That's what ESPN says.
He's our Daniel Sorensen.
Yeah.
Really?
Nah, he does not play anymore. He got that one interception off Jimmy G a few years ago when they made the Super Bowl. That was that's his defensive moment.
Yeah, that was the mud game, right?
7-0, 6-0. We really could have won that game, but we were not good either.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate. Yeah, I was gonna say Apke was someone I couldn't find a whole lot of to watch when I was looking through, so I figured something was up with him.
Just a baller special teamer. It's kind of his thing.
Mm-hmm. Gotta love those guys, though.
Liability and pass protection.
Well, I mean, 90% of the corners on your roster are, so
yeah.
Kind of is what it is. Like I said, William Jackson and Fuller. Which Fuller is it? There's like 6 of them now.
Kendall.
Yeah, Kendall Fuller. Yeah, there's like 6 Fullers now. So the only one I know for sure is Kyle, and then there's Kendall. There's Jordan Fuller. Yeah, they're everywhere. But Kendall Fuller and William Jackson are a very solid duo on the outside. I like the two of them. They're good run defenders as well as corners, which is very nice. You always love to see that. But beyond them, unless Ben St. Juste can really step up, this corner room's going to be atrocious. And then you look at the safeties, and other than Cam Curl against the run, who looked great, it's very serviceable at best. It's kind of mediocre.
McCain is the most inconsistent, all right safety I've ever seen. Because, like I just said, I mean, he's all right, but he doesn't do anything great. He doesn't do anything super terrible, but he'll just always have that one play a game that gives up a big play. I remember the one against Seattle was so bad, but he definitely he's fine enough to start because they don't have too many other safeties to put in that spot. But Bobby McCain's kind of just it's like a bridge safety kind of guy. I guess they just don't think they can find somebody else.
Yeah. I mean, he's all right until, we were kind of talking about him earlier. Maybe Percy Butler can step up. So, yeah, it could be worse.
Got somebody else, too, who was kind of similar to Percy last year coming out of the draft. Forrest, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, Derek Forrest.
Yeah. Okay.
I know that he kind of profiled similar to Percy, and maybe with an extra year of experience on him, he could play a little bit more early. You never know until you see it.
Right. And then you look at Cam Curl, and as great as he is against the run, I think he's kind of mediocre against the pass. He's not fantastic. Him and McCain as a duo against the pass, they're serviceable. They can do their job all right, but they're not super athletic guys. So they're never going to jump off the page at you. They're never going to make crazy plays for you. They're never going to do a great job for you. And when you don't have great corners, that's not something you want to be dealing with. This secondary is weak. There's names there, but it's weak. Unfortunately. Sweet, Zach, either of you want to add anything to that?
I was going to say, I like the idea. I wanted us to do this, but I don't think Rivera's going to do it. Of us moving St. Juste to safety, then us moving McCain to be our slot guy. I think that would work much better for both of their skill sets.
I've seen that thrown around.
I could get behind that. Zach, you want to throw anything in there?
We still need a true free safety. We haven't had a legitimate free safety since Sean Taylor. So,
yeah.
Every year, they're gonna pick up the top free safety. Marcus Williams came and went. The year before, there's somebody else too, but it's always just, kind of an average fill-in guy.
Listen, as a Bears fan, we'll give y'all Eddie Jackson for like a 4th-round pick. I mean it. We'll give you Eddie Jackson for like a 4th-round pick.
I knew he was bad, and then I saw that play against the Vikings where he just stopped playing in the middle.
He just stood there.
He gave up like a 50-yard touchdown.
And then there was
just in there like,
did you see the play week 1 against the Rams?
I don't know.
It was a Cooper Kupp get hit over the middle. Yeah, Cooper Kupp gets hit over the middle, like top middle of the field. Eddie Jackson's like the one guy there, and he just stares at Cooper Kupp, doesn't down him. Cooper Kupp gets up and runs for a touchdown. Like Eddie Jackson has zero awareness whatsoever. The dude's just kind of walking around out there at this point, can't tackle. Again, Eddie Jackson's another guy I could go off about. But if y'all want him for a 4th-round pick, I'll do that in a heartbeat. As the official GM of the Chicago Bears, definitely not lying or anything like that. Ryan Poles promoted me to his assistant. You guys can have Eddie Jackson for basically free. Just take his contract. They get him off my fucking team. I'm so sick of him. But I think that pretty much wraps up the roster. I mean, we can talk about the special teams, but there's not really a whole lot to say. Joey Sly's solid. Tressway's solid.
Tressway's a god.
Yeah.
That's about it. I love that dude.
One more.
He's got a funny.
You guys think Tressway's the best punter in the league?
I mean,
no.
I don't know. I'm not into.
No.
I'd be lying if I said I up and rank punters. I mean, I'll say he is.
I don't rank punters either, but Johnny Hecker's still playing football.
Yeah. Didn't he? He's not on the Rams anymore.
No, he's on the Panthers.
Oh, you got signed.
Panthers.
Panthers.
He didn't get cut. His contract ran up, and the Rams were just like, "Yeah, we're not going to pay a punter," because they had to pay everything else.
You can't really afford him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he'll definitely get work in with Carolina, no matter who's playing at quarterback. So good for him.
Yeah. There is one more thing I want to bring up before we get into like record predictions and whatnot. How do you guys feel about having the man who's at the center of the Zach Wilson drama on your roster right now?
Hey, I'm supporting my boy Dax till the end. Zach Wilson can hold these nights. I don't dislike Zach Wilson, and I do think it's kind of funny, but I'm not for all these ugly ass Jets fans coming in my boy's comments hating on him. Let him live his life. Get over it. I mean, it's really not a big deal. Like, it's high school drama, but it is pretty funny if that story is true. But,
right.
It is what it is. I like Dak. He'll probably get some run at slot this year, I'd assume.
Yeah.
So, we'll see.
I don't know. I look at it as, I mean, I don't want to sound like a fucking douchebag frat boy, but you can't be violating the bro code or whatever they want to call it. You can't be dating your best friend's ex-girlfriend. That's kind of shitty in my opinion.
Yeah.
No. Just a lot of shitty people in Washington, unfortunately. Everyone on your team is an awful human. From top to bottom. It's just toxic. Now, like, jokes aside, how do you guys think the team's going to perform this year? Are your expectations high, or are they just kind of like, it's Washington?
I mean, it's always cautious optimism here. I mean, if I had to, statistically, it's an easier schedule, but also it's filled with teams that weren't great last year that you could see stepping up this year.
Right.
Like, for instance, Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people are predicting the Detroit breakout, and I don't think they're a playoff team.
I have them just outside of the playoffs, personally.
Because it's tough to judge. I think that, now, theoretically, when it comes to a couple of factors, if you ask me, I'd be like, yeah, we definitely should make the playoffs. But you only get 3 wildcard spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people think Philly will probably win the division. Some people still probably think it'll be Dallas.
It's going to be, I would say Philly.
And then they'd probably assume that we'd be behind both of them. I mean, I can't pick Dallas to win the division, 1, just because I hate them so much, and 2, because nobody repeats as the division champ since 04. So I think we should split with both of them, and we should beat New York twice, but we'll probably only beat New York once, because for some reason Tyrod Taylor will probably get in, and he'll play well, and then he'll sprain his ankle tripping down the stairs at FedEx or something.
He'll have the stadium fall on top of him, crush his other lung.
Yeah.
Knock on wood. I hope that doesn't actually happen.
UDFA comes in and takes a spot.
Yeah, because it's not going to be Daniel Jones. It'll be the UDFA that has a breakout before Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So you think they're going to be a playoff team? Cautiously optimistic they'll be a playoff team?
I do. I would say yes, but also I don't have the. Although I do know who we play, it's like I know that the schedule is still not easy. Although record-wise, it is a lot easier than last year. But I mean, we still play Green Bay. That'll probably be a loss, I'd assume. We still play. I mean, we play that whole division. I think I would like to say we go 3-1, but it's more realistic we go 2-2 in that division.
I think there's a world where you go 1-3 and only beat Chicago.
Yeah,
that would be. I think that's where I have them.
Or they lose to Chicago and they beat Minnesota.
That would be more fitting. But no, I think you guys will beat Chicago and lose to Minnesota. Unfortunately,
we're just so bad on prime time.
Yeah,
we're goofy as heck on prime time.
Yeah, but it's Chicago, so.
Yeah, I don't know. I like to say 10-7, but I do think that could be a bit too much.
I mean, I don't think so. I think
it just really comes down to how much better Wentz is than Heineke and the health situation. Because, like, nobody was really healthy last year. And the people who were kind of didn't show up. I mean, William Jackson came in and was supposed to be a good outside corner. And he didn't play that way. He had a few good games down the stretch. But he just was never as good as we thought. And he was one of the guys who felt consistently healthy.
Right.
You just have to... I think on paper it's like a 10-7 team, but also I can't guarantee that at all.
Right.
No. I mean, I think this is the most talented team we've had in probably a decade.
Yeah.
But like you said, on paper it can be 10-7, but we'll see.
I think you'd have to get a few close wins. I think that we match up pretty decently with a lot of the teams we play. Like, I think we match up pretty decently with Minnesota. I think we match up pretty good against. Did we play New Orleans again? I can't remember.
I don't think so.
I don't think we do actually.
Play Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta. I love Marcus Mariota, but I don't know. I'm not too worried about Atlanta because we did beat them last year in their house. Yeah. Although that was.
Yeah, Heineke he did everything he could to lose that one.
But he did make some miraculous plays. Although it was kind of like he didn't have to do all that.
Right.
But they did end up pulling that up last year. Although I do really believe in Arthur Smith. That's why they'll probably be one of the worst teams just because they have like no talent. But like I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta was kind of close to their win total last year, which was like 7 or 8.
Atlanta's a hard team to project.
I wouldn't say it for sure, though.
Right. Sweet. What are your thoughts here?
9-8.
Okay.
Looking at the schedule here, I think we could beat Jacksonville and Detroit. I say we split with Philly. We sweep the Giants. We get swept by the Cowboys because that's how that always goes. Beat Chicago. I think we could beat Indy. And then Houston and Atlanta back-to-back weeks I think is pretty fair. That's at 9. It depends on if Watson gets suspended for a year because we play them week 17.
They're talking about only 8 games, which would be ridiculous.
If he gets 8 games, I'm going to be beyond fucking pissed. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm hearing it's only going to be 8 games, so I think we lose that game. So I have us at 9-8.
I would say some of our tougher games, like some of the tougher games we have at home, which I do like. Although I don't think we're going to beat Green Bay because we always kind of play them close and they always beat us. Like last year, we should have definitely beat them. I think we lost by like 2 touchdowns, but like we had like multiple drives like inside the 5 that didn't get any points or something like that. It was crazy.
Heineke Lambo leaped after he thought he scored, but he didn't.
No, I don't like. I remember thinking, oh my God, that's such a gross rule because he did like kind of like a weird dive thing, but it's like nobody was in 5 yards of him. So I was just thinking, can you please give him the touchdown? But by rule, he definitely was down. So that was super tough. But we also got Tennessee at goal line. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we won one of those games because those are teams that probably just a little bit. But I think that, maybe that we are playing at home, although we don't pull that many fans to the stadium, is a game we should probably take one of those. So I would say anywhere from 8-9 to 10-7 if they can stay healthy, which that's an if for every team.
Yeah,
but I've seen some 5-12s, and I think that's a little ridiculous.
I wouldn't say it is. I wouldn't say it is.
No, you don't think so?
No. Look, here's my thing. Okay, you got to bet on
the schedule's hard.
It's not that the schedule's hard.
That's my thing.
It's the factors outside of football. You got to bet on dysfunction to be dysfunctional. If we have your owner, Dan Snyder, throwing hissy fits on his yacht because he doesn't want to go to court because he lied about his money, that's going to impact the team. We saw that with the Raiders last year with Gruden. And Gruden, it was over some emails. Snyder is legitimately like committing fraud and, you know, I've said it like 16 times, pimping out cheerleaders and doing other disgusting shit. Do we really think that Carson Wentz is going to pull a Derek Carr and rise to the occasion and elevate this team to be like, listen, guys, I understand everything around us sucks, but we need to play our best damn brand of football? Do we really think Carson Wentz is that guy? Or is Wentz going to be like...
Yes.
No, but like I don't.
Not him particularly, but him combined with Allen, combined with Young, combined with Sweat.
I understand that, but at the end of the day, it's going to come down to your quarterback. And like I said, Derek Carr really had to step up for that. That's why Derek Carr was so impressive last year, because in the face of everything going on, he still took that team to the playoffs. Carson Wentz is not that guy to do that. And not only that, I keep preaching it, you have no depth defensively, and you've got a bunch of pieces coming off major injuries. If they hurt themselves at all, like if Jonathan Allen or Deron Payton goes down, Fedarian Mathis isn't going to give you a third of what they're providing you. If Chase Young or Montez Sweat goes down, your backup edges aren't giving you a third of what they're providing you. Your corners, you're going to be relying on UDFAs if either of your starting two corners go down. I mean, this team, I understand on paper looking at it like, yeah, it's a solid roster, but when you really sink your teeth into it and realize what's, you know, kind of peel back the cover and look at what's in there, there's no depth. There's a lot of question marks with injuries. There's a big question mark at quarterback, which I don't want to hate on Wentz too much, but I just think he might not be big enough, or the moment might be too big for him. You have a lot going on up top. It's just, like I said, you got to bet on dysfunction to be dysfunctional. And unless randomly the NFL is like, Dan, you know what? Water under the bridge. You're good, buddy. And they can just go back and everything can kind of be fine. I just don't see it happening. I think 5 or 6 wins is a reasonable expectation for them.
I think we're going to see everything we need to know after week 2. If we start home against Jacksonville and then we're at Detroit, if we come out of that stretch anywhere other than 2-0, I think like this team is fraudulent.
And I think it's very likely they come out at minimum or at best 1-1. I think Detroit's a better football team.
Seriously?
Yes, I do. I'm very confident in Detroit this year.
I love their offensive line.
That's not. Yeah, listen, that's not a shot at Washington. I just think Detroit's really well built.
I mean, especially, mistake me if I'm wrong. Is it doesn't their secondary blow? Is it actually good? Like, because I really don't remember.
It's iffy.
Too much into that.
It's iffy.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember thinking that, you know, since Okuda really hasn't panned out, it kind of just...
But Amani Oruwariye had a big year. Their safeties aren't terrible. Jerry Jacobs, who was a UDFA last year, looked fantastic. They're like 12 deep on their defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Their offense...
they seem to be getting those like 3rd, 4th round guys. I'm always just like, he's going to be good.
Yeah, and their offensive line is great. Their running game should be solid. I'm not a huge DeAndre Swift guy, but the offensive line in front of them, there's no way he can't be at least solid.
Yeah.
Their receiver core projects to be nice. They've got Hawkinson, who's a top 7, 8 tight end, and Jared Goff can pull a win out of his ass here or there. If you gave Detroit a real quarterback, I think Detroit would be legitimate playoff, like serious playoff contenders. This wouldn't be like, you know, hot take, I can see Detroit sneaking into the playoffs. It would be like everyone has Detroit like 2nd in the NFC North if they had a real quarterback. Yeah. Like, it's a really well-built roster, and that's not even taking into account what Dan Campbell's able to do, the way he's able to get like 150% out of his players every single week, which is why they were pulling off upsets last year when no one projected them to win a game. Dan Campbell is that guy. He is a fantastic players coach. He's going to get 150% out of his guys every single week because he gives them 250% himself.
Right.
He's the best players coach in football. Detroit's going to surprise people, and I think they have a better team than Washington.
I think You know what? I did see a difference in Washington when Rivera is kind of like players coach to an extent. I don't want to say he's a perfect players coach at all,
right?
Because he's not. But he's had moments, right? Like, and I know like maybe it's because they rallied around him after he got through the cancer.
Mm-hmm.
There was like a good stretch where he was just like it looked like everybody was just doing more than they were even physically capable of, and we were only still scraping out wins because our team a couple of years ago, like it wasn't very good. Like
Right.
it did. Now, granted, made the playoffs at 7-9. We all knew we were going to lose in the first round. Obviously, played a little better than we thought, but like it was, it's like a whole thing. If he can be demanding while also commanding respect, like he kind of did his first year, and it's not that people walked all over him last year. I mean, you saw some stuff in the locker room.
Right.
Although I don't think that they like Del Rio, which I think would be a little understandable because he's one. I don't love his scheme for the defense we have. I think he runs a little bit too much like weak, softy kind of zone. When I'm not saying that they should like throw it to my guys at the quarterback like every play.
Mm-hmm.
But, like sometimes I think he just overdoes it with the cautious thing. Like I think we have given up like the most like 3rd and 12 plus downs in the league. Like we've had to for like the longest time. So I think like there's just like little kinks that they've got to get hammered out. Like I said, I don't really like the 5-6 win. Like at worst, probably just what they were last year because the schedule's a lot easier on paper. But it's really all going to come down to a lot of things. I don't think Wentz plays much worse than Heineke, although I definitely wouldn't be surprised if they did respect Heineke more.
Right.
Because he can command players.
Mm-hmm.
Although you know that he's not as talented, mainly just because he doesn't have strong legs. I think you can get something out of Wentz. Probably not the playoffs. It wouldn't shock me just because I really don't love many of the NFC teams. Like I'm on record being lower on Minnesota and New Orleans than a lot of other people. Although I love New Orleans' defense, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, I'm not super high on a lot of the NFC either. It's just I don't see Washington being a team to make a bunch of noise. I really don't.
No, I can understand that. I definitely can because we've always lost one-score games too.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the year that they flip the switch and win a ton of one-score games because it's not a Super Bowl team. Right? We all know
no, not by any means.
They'd have to get very kind of like I don't want to say lucky, but like they would need a lot of things to go their way to really even be looked at that by anyone. I think your best case scenario is you win a lot of close games and people kind of call you fraudulent until you lose in probably the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair.
But also you could, maybe see something. I doubt Wentz gets back to his what's it called year. Because even his last good year in Philly was pretty good considering the circumstances. Because Doug Peterson, like I do think he's a serviceable coach, and I think that he can look really good, and that's why I do think Trevor Lawrence is going to be really good this year. But I don't think I think he was always kind of erratic with Wentz, and sometimes like I think that's kind of why and he needed someone to command the offense. So like even where he was taking risks, it was like there was a calculated risk, and that's why I think Nick Foles worked with him better than Wentz did. Well, maybe not better, because Wentz at his best was good, but you know what I mean. Like, they won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just, like I said, I just don't trust this team with what they have going on to be a team to really fight back again in the face of adversity. And like you said, it's going to be hard for Wentz to get the respect of the locker room. It's not like these players don't see what we see. These rumors coming out of Philly, they're going to know that shit. They're going to know it. And they're going to be like, well, this team's already dysfunctional enough. Now we got a toxic quarterback who can't stand it when he's not the leader. It's tough. Mm-hmm. It's just tough to look at this team and be like, yeah, I'm confident in them. They have the talent to prove me wrong, but 5-6 wins, I think, is a fair estimate. I really do. But
I had to put a real number on it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably say 8, just because I know there's a couple games on the schedule that I think we should definitely win that we'll just lose. Just because, well, that's the case with every team, first off, but like, with us, I mean, it's kind of like penciled in.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I'm just not super confident in them. But unless you guys have anything you want to add, any players we didn't cover, anything like that, I think we're about done.
He's on the Texans now. I do like Kyle Allen. That's he wasn't great at all.
Fair enough.
By any means, but I always kind of thought he was cool.
Fair enough.
Now he's on Houston.
All right. Well,
that's pretty it.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it, especially after the bit of technical difficulties we had like an hour and a half ago. Thanks for sticking with me through that. I appreciate it. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys have anything you want to plug, this is your opportunity to do that, whether it's your Twitter, TikTok, anything like that. Go for it.
Good. Yeah.
All right.
It was a great time.
I got nothing. Follow David Miller Football on TikTok.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, thank you guys so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Ball Knower Podcast Team Preview Series. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it all the way through, it means a lot. I really appreciate it. We're putting a ton of work into these things. We're fighting through technical difficulty and scheduling being a bitch and everything else. So if you're actually sitting down and watching, listening to these, I really appreciate it. And if, make sure you leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think. If you think I'm being too low on the Commanders, which I'm sure any Commanders fan out there watching this will think, or if you think they're being a bit too high on the Commanders, let us know in the comments below. Yell at us. Tell us why we're wrong. If we didn't cover a specific player, let us know why we're idiots for sleeping on their third string long snapper or whomever. Or if there's a player...
Cameron Cheeseman.
Right. Or if there's a player we completely skipped, or if there's a player maybe we're a bit harsh on or a bit positive about, you don't agree with it, let us know in the comments below. If you have any insight, please just let us know in the comments below. Comments mean a lot. Make sure to like the video as well. Like I said, we're putting a ton of effort into these, and any sort of interaction, any sort of like, you're doing all right, that kind of thing. It means a lot. It's really hard out here trying to make content in the dead period of the NFL, but we're getting close to training camp. This video actually might be out by the time training camp starts. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day.